very briefly, I want to ask you guys, because we talked about how we're all in the same mindset here, how we all want to be bears on beaches or bald eagles. But from each of you, what's one piece of advice you would give to somebody who is either scared or nervous to follow their passions in life?
Ooh, I got a ton. But Justin, do you want to go first or should I go first?
I'd say you go first.
All right, I'll go first. So I have a little sister, and I give her advice all the time, as well as her friends and my own friends too. I mean, it's weird. Like everyone's scared and everyone's nervous about making that like leap, especially when you want to like pursue something. So it's like almost as if you're asking the question, like, well, who am I? Why do I deserve like to accomplish that kind of dream, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I tell a lot of people is like, really, it comes down to. It always comes down to action, right? But before action comes planning. And a lot of the things that you have to do, at least in our Justin and in my case, right? A lot of the things that we've done is we sit down and we think things through. It's not good enough to just say, I want this.
Yeah.
It's necessary to think, okay, well, how do I get this, right? So if it comes down to working in the industry or starting your own, development studio or, creating your own media outlet or creating your own YouTube channel, it's one, how well do you know that space? And then two, do you think you could create something good enough? And if you do, then the next step is the hardest step, which is let's start doing it.
Yeah, just start. Yeah.
And the moment you start doing it, and this is something that Justin and I have learned to understand over time, and it's way scarier, obviously, being on the other side of this, but that was back in 2011 when we started doing things, right? All the things leading up to that, like from going out to conventions, our first media past show was GDC 2015. So that already took 4 years just to get the media pass, like truthfully, like properly. And then after that, the network expanded drastically on those 2 days. Then I think they've expanded at all. So network is another advice that I would give you. The network is the true asset, right?
Yeah.
But then after that, it comes down to, okay, so now keep working, keep getting noticed, and it's going to be a grind, but eventually you'll understand, and you'll come to understand this, that the grind is partially both the worst part, but also the best part, because it does get you to the point where you are understanding, you're intaking so much information and you're understanding exactly where to go next, and there's a direction, and you aren't directionless, and you have the direction. And then eventually there's a breaking point where you achieve and you're like, I've made it to this point, but now what's the next thing after that? And that's the big thing. It's just making sure that you have a point to shoot for, and then continuously moving in that point. All decisions from where you are right now to where you want to go have to get you towards that point. It doesn't have to be directly in that direction, but as long as it's generally in that area or generally moving forward, if it's instead of a forward, maybe it's like a forward right step or forward left step, it's getting you closer. That's a good step. Take that action.
I would probably complement this with a few, I guess, more like ethereal things, some like the stuff that's happening in the background of these thoughts as well, which is like, I mean, the first thing that I think is probably the most important thing for anybody, and this is in all facets of life, business, love, friendship, relationships, whatever, like everything, it really comes down to mindset. Like you have to, it's like law of attraction, right? Like if you're not putting positive vibes out into the world and you're not thinking that what you're doing is getting you to where you need to go to, like it's not going to happen. So the key thing that you have to do is just always be thinking, or always be putting yourself in that positive mind frame. Always be like, grateful and kind of like, I don't know, just always sort of pushing yourself and being like, this is going to work out the way that I need it to if I work hard enough. We are going to get to where we're going to get to because we're doing all the right things. You know what I mean? You have to just kind of like visualize what you want and like really be like constantly reassuring yourself. It's like self-talk, right? Like you just keep telling yourself like, we're going to be okay. We're going to do this, right? And then you back that up with the work, like Justin was saying.
And you know what helps? Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
One thing that helped me, I mean, because at 2015, June 1st was the day that I left my job and I started working on the passion full time, essentially, with Justin. But certain times there was moments where it was like, man, this is really hard. Like I see only minimal gains and I don't know like how much longer I can do this for. I need to pick up like a side job just to continue like expenses, whatnot. But is it worth like putting yourself out there for the next 2-3 years just to see if you can make it? Yes. Because if you don't make that choice, then you're going to regret it, for one.
Yeah.
The second big thing was just I had these inspirational post-it notes that I put next to my bed whenever I woke up, which was like, get up, you can do it. Like, do that. You need it. You need that self-talk.
Yeah. I think that the last two things that I would add to it would be always shoot higher than what you think you can do. You know, like when you're setting your goals, when you're setting like what you can do or whatever, you should always be shooting higher. So like when Justin was using the example of like we worked and then we finally got to a place where we got a media badge and we walked into a place and we're like, dang, like we're experiencing this in a totally new way. Like that wasn't the ceiling, right? Like you should never look at a situation like there's a ceiling. You should always be like, okay, well, how are we going to take this even further? How can we make this even more successful? How can we, get, just keep growing this thing, right? Because it's that process that's going to make it feel fulfilling. But then the other part to that I think is equally as important is while you're always chasing that higher next bigger goal, you want to be aware and kind of like grateful for the situation that you're in right now. Because even like how Justin's saying, it's like the grind to hit those first milestones is a lot of work. You know what I mean? It's a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of patience, attention. You're not going to get the results that you want every time, but you got to keep doing what you have to do. And then like once you achieve whatever it is that you're looking for, you realize that it was through that grind. Like that's when you feel the most fulfilled in life. You know what I mean? It's really when you're putting the work in. It's like that moment where you're like, this is kind of how you keep yourself humbled. It's like you look at like, man, I have the opportunity to do this. Like I am working towards my goals. I'm not doing nothing. You know what I mean? I might be working and the work might be hard, but I'm doing it for all the right reasons. You know what I mean? I'm putting myself in a situation where I'm getting to where I want to be, So
totally makes
that's
sense.
kind of what I would say.
Man, no, great answers from all of you. I hope anybody who's listening heard that last question. And if you have something that you want to start, go ahead and do it. It's going to be a grind, but I hope you took some inspiration from these words.